Hey, what's good? What's good, man? It's Thawahgabar for Black Authentic Truth. Thank y'all for rocking with me. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for locking in right now. This is a big one. I got Richard Taylor. I got my brother on here. You know what I'm saying? Taylor House Publishing. This brother right here has been a big figure on the internet lately with the story of JAVION MAGEE. And I just want to welcome you, brother. I thank you for taking the time and opportunity to rock it out with me.
Peace and blessings, man. I'm honored to be here. I thank you as well for the work that you do and taking the time to take interest in this case. Way from the West Coast, San Bernardino, right?
Of course, most definitely. Listen, man, I'm always locked in. And when it comes to Black people, Black history, and really the current events that's going on with our people, I mean, I have to pay attention. And this story with JAVION MAGEE is like, it's a story. First of all, let me just say, like, because I know you got people that's looking, and let me just introduce myself. I'm Thawahgabar. My platform is Black Authentic Truth. I'm also an officer in the ISUPK, and I love history. I'm a historian. And if you could, Richard, go ahead and do your thing.
Yeah, my name is Richard Taylor. I am a author, a speaker, publisher, mentor, community activist, a minister, and just an overall, servant of humanity. That's right.
Richard is in his bag. I mean, Richard, he has a a bag of different things. What was it say? A jack of all trades. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, man. Appreciate you, bro. Once again, appreciate you for being here and rocking with me. So with this JAVION MAGEE story, it's how I found you basically is I was looking for some information on this story, and you were the only person that actually was going in depth and giving new information that you couldn't get from the mainstream media. And the story from the beginning just sounded so suspicious, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and I actually first heard about it. I was in Virginia visiting some relatives, and someone sent me the TikTok post of JAVION's cousin, and that's when I first heard about it. And then, of course, I Googled the story, and there were no stories. This was probably that Thursday or that Friday.
Okay.
There was no story. There was one internet story, and I think it was from one of the grassroots publications, and they gave a little rundown on it. And then probably about the next day, I think that was Friday, that's when they came out with the press conference with the sheriff, and they gave a little bit of the details. But reading through the details, I automatically knew that something wasn't right with the story, and that's what sparked my interest.
Right. I seen the press conference with the was it the sheriff, the brother?
Sheriff Brame, and I'm not going to say his nickname, but I'm gonna keep it, keep it light. Sheriff Curtis Brame, the Vance County Sheriff there in Henderson, North Carolina.
Yeah, he sounded a little sketchy, man. He was stumbling over his words, and and the fact that the family hadn't gotten any answers at that point, it just seemed real strange. So could you walk us through the events? Like we seen the story, like out here on the West Coast, we seen the story that mass media played in the narrative that they went with, but could you walk us or run us down with the events of the story of JAVION MAGEE, this case?
All right, so first let me say the events that we have are the narrative given to us by the people who we think are involved in the cover-up or the lack of investigation. So we have to keep that in mind as we go through the story. But the narrative is JAVION left from Pennsylvania, and he left from Pennsylvania, and he got to Vanceburg County sometime early in the morning, maybe like 9 or 10. He stopped at a truck stop in Middleburg, according to, once again, the information. He stopped at that truck stop there. He continued on into Vance County, Henderson, I'm sorry. He continued on to Henderson, where he went to the Walmart distribution center. And it was there that he dropped his load. Now, they say that he spent about 4 hours there. And after he dropped his load, he drove to the spot that eventually was his demise. And that's 285 Banco Mill Road. That is T&R's trailer and trucker repair, which is only about a half a mile from the distribution center. It is understood from there, he actually dropped his trailer from his 18-wheeler. He dropped his trailer on that lot, and he then proceeded to a Walmart distribution center. When he went to the Walmart distribution center, he brought the famed rope. Once they put that picture and the video out there, we'll get into that later, but he bought the famed rope. It was then that he was alleged to give a homeless man exactly $228, stating, that's all I have. If I had more, I would give you more. It is then they said he went to the Hampton Inn. Hampton Inn, he went, parked in the back, went and asked for a hotel room. There was no room at the inn, as they say in the Bible. Then he went to a smoke shop, and there he say he picked up some Black and Milds or something to smoke, and then he went to the lot where they claimed that he got there about 7 o'clock. and he was walking back and forth to the tree line. I don't know if you seen the video, but it was then that they said at about 7:30 he walked back to the tree line, line to never to be seen again. Now, as I'm telling the story, don't quote me. I know he went to the Walmart first, but I don't know if he went to the smoke shop or the Hampton Inn later. But you know, those two are interchangeable. But those are the three places that they saying he went before he went back to the TNR's Trucking Lounge and met his final demise.
Okay, and so I've seen the video that you did where you went to the actual tree line, and brother, those trees look so flimsy. I mean, like, to say that the brother did that to himself on that tree is very sketchy. What's your thoughts? Because you was actually there, so you seen the tree, but on the video, the trees look very like small, like they couldn't support much weight.
Yeah, well, that was once again the first flag, the first inconsistency of the story. Those trees were probably no more than a foot, or even a half a foot, well, a foot in diameter, and they weren't very tall. And the fact that they said that, you know, he was sitting at the bottom of the tree. He was sitting at the bottom of the tree. The rope was reportedly wrapped around his neck 11 times, and the rope was then slung over a limb on the other tree. And so, considering that there was no way, even if he was trying to suspend himself in air, those trees would have held his weight. And so that was, you know, one of the biggest red flags in the whole story. Not to mention, there were preliminary reports that he had a broken neck and also bruises, you know, on his body, on his facial area.
Now, when it comes to, like I said again, I seen the video, and I seen where you showed there were pieces of the rope kind of like leading up to where he was at. Am I correct with that?
Yeah. When you're walking through the yard, there were two strands. The strands were about 10 or 15 feet apart from each other, and they were straight on a beeline heading toward the trees. Now, that leads many people to believe that JAVION was somehow dragged to that location by, you know, the perpetrators of this event. And being that, you know, there was reports of his neck broken, that could be the case of how, you know, his neck was broken, or it was broken beforehand.
Now, that's interesting. Like, now, officially, when it comes to the autopsy, was there any, did they say anything that there was any signs of foul play?
Well, initially, if you heard the press conference by Sheriff Brain, he was adamant about it not being any sounds of foul play. No sounds of foul play. If you watch that video, when they asked him, could it be a self-unalivement, he danced around the question. He filibustered for about 45 seconds. And then when they asked him, okay, could there be foul play? Oh, no. So that was a inconsistency right there, because if he couldn't establish the fact that it was a self-unalivement, how could he be so immediately sure that there weren't any foul play? So the autopsy report is funny because I just ordered the autopsy report from the examiner's office. And so, and I don't know what took me so long to do that, but I just ordered that today. So hopefully, if the autopsy is ready, I will be able to have that within the next couple of days. Now, of course, the preliminary autopsy report, I don't know the exact results of that because I haven't seen it.
So that's another thing I want to get to. Now, when it comes to, well, let me just ask this. You actually went to the services in Chicago for JAVION MAGEE. when it comes to the family, I know their stance was that they didn't go with what was being said. They always felt that it was foul play. How's the family doing?
Well, you know, fairly well under the circumstances. You know, of course, I don't, you know, I'm not in their skin, but the services were very, very heart touching. A lot of people shared a lot of fond memories of JAVION. Of course, you know, when the service was ending and, you know, the casket closed, of course, that's when there was an overflow of emotions from family members. But you know, the family seems to be, you know, I had a chance to meet the father and the mother, as well as some other close relatives and friends. So the family, you know, are doing as well as to be expected. Now, of course, you know, anytime something like that happens, when everybody's around you, when everybody's showing love, when everybody's sending condolences, you might feel a little better. But it's the time like now, when the service is over and everybody has to go back to their normal lives, is the time that we probably should be equally showing that amount of love.
Mm-hmm. Now, you know, JAVION seemed like he was full of life, you know, just from those pictures that are on the internet that I've seen. And I believe, you could correct me if I'm wrong, he was from where this happened, that he was going to also go see some relatives in Texas, if I'm correct.
Yeah, and I've heard the same thing, that after, I guess he may have finished his load and he was going to drive down to Texas, or he may have went back and flew down. I'm not sure, but that is where one part of his family lived. So that is what has been said, that he was looking forward to going down and seeing some of his other relatives.
So I just want to get straight to the point. When they say that we, you know, Black people or Black men, that we would do such a thing to ourselves in that way, it just doesn't make sense, brother. And I know you agree with that. Like to throw that on, you know, a person feeling that they want to take their own, unalive themselves. Common sense would say that Black people don't do that. Like the natural reaction to you is like, nah, it's some foul play. Even if it probably wasn't, it just doesn't make any sense, you know, for somebody to be so full of life and, you know, on a mission to make money and to, you know, become independent and become their own person, to just do that out of the blue. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and you said common sense. Common sense says that, but also statistics and studies show that anytime that a Black man would proceed to expire himself in that manner, that is very seldom that we do that in that manner. And so that is, once again, contradictory to the narrative of, you know, many other stories that we're seeing now. But as far as, you know, once again, they tried to, I think it was one person who tried to put the mental health stigma on our young brother. And contrary to that one person, all of the family members who spoke about him said that he was the ball of life. He made everybody happy. He wanted to make everybody happy. And, you know, speaking with the father, and I let him tell, you know, that there was some miscommunication between him and that family member, which that family member took his words out of context to be able to spit that narrative out there. But according to, you know, his father and, you know, everyone I spoke to, there was no depression. There was no, you know, loneliness, hopelessness, despair enough where he would do something of that nature.
And let me just make a disclaimer, like if there are brothers and sisters that are out there like that, then there are avenues where you could get help and you could, you know, reach out to people. So I just want to put that out there. You know, we're not down in that or nothing like that. We're just saying in a certain circumstance, like I was saying, like to do that way, Historically, that's how it was done to our people. Historically. Now you got to think like a person that is in that mindset. I would use me for an example. I'm not depressed, by the way, and I don't feel like I'm hopeless, but I'll use me as an example. I think I would want it to be quick. I wouldn't want to do something that I'm struggling, and it's an antagonizing way to go. And as a Black man, knowing how our people was done, it would just be like a absolute hell no, an absolute no. Hypothetically, but I'm just saying, for brothers and sisters out there, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Anytime, just like you mentioned, anytime where you hear someone expiring and a rope and a tree is involved, even if they did it to themselves, there's still going to be doubt in your mind. Going back to this, I failed to mention before it brought up this, even when he was laid at the foot of the tree, an investigator pointed this out to me. One thing he said that was, anytime that someone expires in that manner through asphyxiation, they're going to be, as you said, struggling. They're going to be fighting. They're going to be gasping for air because it is a natural reaction. From the reports of the sheriff, they said that JAVION was sitting at the base of the tree. His legs were crossed over each other in a comfortable manner. Now, the detective pointed out through his experience, anytime that would have happened, if he was sitting on the ground, his legs would have been failing. There would have been dirt kicked up. There would have been, some disturbance.
Some sign of struggle.
Yeah. So that right there, once again, raises the red flag as to this not being a true portrayal of the events that led to his demise.
Now, another thing that I seen you brought out was the picture, like a photograph with the three men and Mr. MAGEE, the brother MAGEE's body at the bottom at their feet.
Yes, and many people have seen that photograph by now. Now, that photograph was taken by an individual. We still are not sure who took that photograph. Some people say it was a still shot from the camera from the Shell station across the street. Nevertheless, that picture was posted on September the 12th, in which JAVION was quote unquote found on September the 11th. Now, many people say, well, this picture was taken on the 12th, and I would dispute that, because just because it was posted on the 12th does not mean that it was taken on the 12th. And the fact that our brother could be clearly seen at the feet of three men at nighttime, clearly alludes to the fact that that picture had to be taken before he was quote unquote found at the trees, which adds another layer to the skepticism. If JAVION was in the custody of three people, we initially thought it was police. It could be security. Though their clothes are similar to what the sheriffs wear, but the photo is not clear enough to distinguish any police uniform, police memorabilia of that nature. However, speaking with the father, and I hate to speak for him, but he did identify that picture as him. That is how JAVION looked when they showed him the pictures at the tree. If that means the same pose that we saw in those pictures are the same pose that he had sitting at the base of that tree, which once again alludes to the fact that he may have been already expired during that time and later placed at the location in which he was quote unquote found.
Man, it's so many inconsistencies, so many when it comes to this, like things that just don't add up. Did Javion have a phone?
Yes, of course he did have a phone.
Mhm.
Actually, speaking with his grandmother, which I got to call her as well, she said that she was the last person who spoke with him sometime around 6:37. This don't quote me, but yes, he did have a phone. And at last report, speaking with the family, of course, it's to my knowledge, they have yet to receive possession of his cell phone, which once
Man,
again
this
raises
more flags. It's super sketchy. In the beginning, I probably should have asked this earlier. Initially, the family was notified, but they were not able to even receive a picture. Am I correct? Of Javion's body.
Yes, because the family were, of course, his father stayed in Illinois and his mother stayed in another state. So, of course, they were not able to get there expediently, expeditiously in that manner. So, it is my knowledge that they didn't see any photos until they got there. Now, I don't know if they ever got a chance to see the particular body while they were there in Henderson, but it was shown to me that they were only given photos. And, the sheriff stated that, he was being transparent with them in that manner. Many people, said that the family was not able to see the body, but of course they didn't get there. Javion was found on the 11th, and if I'm not mistaken, they didn't arrive into Henderson until the 18th, which is almost a week later. So, and when they got there, like I said, I know they saw photos. I am not sure if they got a chance to actually see the body.
Solid. Okay. When it comes to, I seen somewhere where someone was saying that there's a nightclub not too far away where Black people shouldn't go. Is that true? Is there any truth to that?
Well, yeah. So how we found the nightclub, I interviewed a gentleman when my first foray into Henderson, when I was going around the town, just wondering if people knew about the situation.
Right.
And there were some who knew, some who, kind of vaguely knew, some who suspected foul play, some who really didn't know, and then some, who was just going off the narrative that was put there. But this one particular gentleman, I asked about the situation, and he said, well, the KKK bar, there's a KKK bar right up there. That's what the KKK bar at. That's what the KKK meet at. And I was like, oh, okay. And so, I started asking around about that particular bar, and I received another caller, an anonymous caller, who actually described the scene that everyone is seeing in the picture. He described the scene. He described the police taking Javion's phone, him inquiring to call his mother. This particular caller said that they beat him. This particular caller said also that, that one of the officers wanted to set him on fire, but the other officer stopped him. And then he once again started mentioning the bar. Like, I don't go around there, man. I don't go. That's a KKK bar, man. You don't go in there. We know you don't go over there, right? So, yeah. And because this case had garnered so much attention, people started looking into it. Residents from Henderson, residents from around the surrounding areas, people who knew about it. People just started doing research, and they found the bar, which is called TR's Lounge. Okay. TR's Lounge. Now, mind you, the place that Javion was found at is called T and R's Truck and Trailer Repair.
Wow.
That's what got people to looking in, okay, who owns the truck and repair shop and who owns the bar. Now, when people started pulling up pictures of the bar, they had a large Confederate flag outside of the bar, flying high, like the one on 85. Well, you don't know, but the one on 85 down in North Carolina. They also had pictures in the bar, several Confederate flags littered around the bar, and out of all the pictures that we saw with patrons in the bar, of course, there were nobody that looked like me or you. Mm-hmm. And so people started digging into the owner of the bar, and we found the owner of the bar, Mr. Thurston, and I forget his last name, but the owner of the bar, and then we found the owner of the TNR Truck and Repair. Now, those owners on paper are different. They are different. Actually, one of the owners was the caller in the 911 call, which is a whole nother situation. But we'll get into that. But so this particular bar, people have told me after we found it, you said, no, we don't go to that bar. Some people didn't even know that the bar was there in the town. And so some people know that. And then one particular individual who lived there for a long time said, yeah, well, they used to meet at this particular location, but then they shut it down. And then that's when they moved out to that particular location. Now, the location is only about a 3 or 4 minute drive from the truck and repair shop. And so that bar, that's why we say, okay, if there are people who still frequent places like that, who fly Confederate flags, and people can say it's about Southern pride all they want to, we know the spirit, the ideology behind that flag. And so, but someone has told me, since we have been doing these videos, that they actually have removed the Confederate flags.
Wow.
So that may be, once again, a sign of, guilt. Not in this particular case, but just guilt of, them being, them having those feelings.
And having all of that attention, like that attention that this story is now getting. Because I would say that, or you probably know just as well, as that a lot of these stories will go unnoticed and unheard of without the attention and the spotlight that is being put on this particular case, JAVION MAGEE's case. Like through your efforts, which are amazing, it has brought a bigger spotlight. Now, I'll tell you, I probably would have never heard of it. I seen the relatives TikTok, and I'm sure a lot of people, that's how they got hip to it, that TikTok video. That's how I even heard about JAVION MAGEE in this story. But what you're saying is that, they done took the Confederate flag down. They in many cases, they're feeling the heat, because you got a microscope now on a place that normally goes under the microscope.
Yeah. And another thing about, the TikTok video, the TikTok video was probably the reasons why anybody heard about it, because the TikTok video was released that Thursday or that Wednesday. The sheriff didn't make a statement until that Friday. Now, the Henderson Police Department made a statement earlier that day saying, look, we're aware of the situation. However, that's not our jurisdiction. It happened in the county. So they immediately passed the buck. Now, when Sheriff Brain did his press conference, he referred to the TikTok video. He said, well, he was denying that, it was any foul play. It wasn't a noose. It wasn't wrapped around his neck. He wasn't hanging. He wasn't lynched. Then he said, well, I know it's a video that's got about 1,000 hits on, TikTok or whatever. And so that leads me to believe right there that if it wasn't for that video, they would have never made a statement.
Right.
The video got so much traction, and like you said, you heard about it way from California. So it was at that point in time that they had to come out and acknowledge that the situation even happened.
Because of that. I'm sorry. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, but that was the importance of the cousin putting it out there, people sharing it. Like I said, if the person doesn't share it with me, because I'm not on TikTok that much, but if the person doesn't share that TikTok video with me, I don't know about it. You know? So, and you know, even with the sheriff press conference, you know, I wouldn't have been watching the news in Vance County, you know. So it was definitely an integral part of bringing exposure to this matter with the cousin sharing that TikTok video.
Definitely. And when it comes to like getting exposure to certain things, this is the way that we all are communicating through the medium of social media. So it's, in fact, I think it's more powerful than, you know, television or anything else as far as getting the word out and going viral, you know, like going. So I believe that video it went super viral. But when I seen it, I don't be on TikTok either, like you said, brother. But when I seen it, I might have seen it like on YouTube or a YouTube short or something like that. But it got my attention. And once I seen it, like you said, after that, you started seeing news outlets run the, you know, the basic narrative of the story. And from what I'm seeing is like a lot of people, you go on some of these news sites and people that don't look like us, they want to believe in all their heart that he did this to himself. Nobody wants to believe that these things are still happening up until this day.
Yeah, and that's some of the issue, but it goes beyond people who don't look like us, because as I've talked to many Henderson residents, and shout out to the people of Henderson, you know, much love. You know, I've met many people from Henderson, you know, because of, you know, this case and the investigation. However, some people from Henderson feel like that, well, it's not that bad around here. You know, that has never happened around here. You know, we get along like that. Henderson is 70% black. Like, nobody wouldn't do that around here because they know we would turn up, which very well may be true. However, there's a level of cognitive dissonance there as well, meaning some people don't want that stigma on the town. You know, like I spoke to one brother at the Walmart on one of my videos. He said, well, nah, that, you know, I don't think nobody would be crazy enough to do that, you know, to a black person here because they know the repercussions. However, the particulars with this case is different because JAVION was not from there. And so it's not like the people of Henderson have a connection or a reason to fight for JAVION. Now, if this was Pookie from Andrew Street, you know what I'm saying, that was found, right, they'll be turning the city upside down. Why? Because they know him. They want to know what happened. I spoke to a girl in the neighboring town of Kitchell. I was going there one day. I stopped at a gas station, and I asked her, because, you know, I'm trying to gauge the community. I asked her, she asked me what was I asked her where I was, because I really didn't know where I was. So she told me I was in Kitchell, and so I said, okay, well, you know, I'm going to Henderson. You ever heard of JAVION MAGEE? And what she said was, oh, you mean the boy that himself? And I was like, well, that's what they're saying. But I say that to say that she was going off the narrative that was given to her, you know, because there wasn't somebody that she knew, you know. It was, and I spoke to another young lady, and she said, and I asked her, I said, well, what's the temperature of the town right now? And she said, well, it's mostly the older people who are concerned about it. She said, we in the hood. So people are getting shot every day. Now, Henderson does have a high crime rate. So she was like, people are dying every day. So most people are worried about what they got going on. So that goes to the point where if JAVION was somebody that they knew, then they would be much more worried about it than they are now. But she goes on to say that, well, you know, everybody knows the sheriff and the police department is corrupt. You know, Sheriff Brain hides from everything. And then she said, but she broke the narrative down right quick. Yeah. And that's what it is right now. You know, I was expecting for me to go there and people to be up in arms, but, you know, JAVION unfortunately had no connection with these places. And we see that in a lot of these situations where people are from out of town and something gets done to them, and it's immediately, okay, this is what happened. And nobody asks questions because the people who are concerned are hundreds or thousands of miles away. And so that's how they're easily to go ahead and check the box this happened, that happened. Close, case closed.
Right. That's well said. And I would just actually add on and say that, when they talk about sundown towns, I want to get to that. When they talk about sundown towns, and I've seen where, it's a situation where you have a sundown town, but you also have a Black community in that sundown town. Now that they don't bother the Black community in that sundown town. They didn't see these people grow up, and the town is so small that everybody knows one another. But if an outsider comes in there, one of us, then it's a whole nother ball game. Does that? I got some. Yeah, go ahead.
And that's once again part of the narrative as well, because when the article first came out, that first article I read mentioned that Henderson was a sundown town like back in the 60s. So people kept saying that. And so a lot of people that I talked to when I went there, they were ready to deny that. Like, this is not a sundown town. Like, nah, we run it around here, which may be true, right? And so that's another part of them sort of disavowing. Oh, now that ain't, because this ain't no sundown town, which right. I know it's not. However, like, a couple of people told me, yeah, but, we don't go out there in the country neither. You know what I'm saying? We stay in the city. And that's why one of the brothers told me, yeah, they might do something out there in the country like that, but in the city, they know we'll turn up. So just because something is not a particular sundown town like Vidal or Texas, where no Black people stay, doesn't mean that acts like this could not or are impossible to happen in those areas. Right.
Definitely. Now I want to talk a little bit about the 911 call. It sounded kind of rehearsed. I don't know, but what is your thoughts on that?
So when I went and got the police report, and there were two names listed on that police report. One was Mr. Patrick Allen Ray, or Ray Patrick. I've been saying these things and looking at it so much, but I think it's Patrick Allen, something. Allen Patrick Ray, something. So he was the quote unquote owner. And another person was listed on that police report by the name of Quentin Bullock. Now, I haven't been able to locate the real Quentin Bullock. I think they said it's like 6 Quentin Bullocks that stay in the town. But Ray Patrick guy, the Ray Patrick guy was the particular owner. Now, he is the one who made the 911 call. Now, during the call, he stated that, I had some guys out here cutting grass, and they found someone who was, he said they were hanging in the tree. You know what I'm saying? He said that, and, he mentioned that he was a first responder. And then the person asked him, the dispatch asked him, is he breathing? And he was like, nah, he dead. And gave a little chuckle. He said he dead. I know he's dead. Almost like, he's dead. How? Right. That was one red flag. But also, you can hear a person literally in the background come up and, like, they say, oh, and use an expletive. You know what I'm saying? They say, oh, like they just walked up and seen him and was like, what did y'all do? That's what I'm getting it from. Like, what in the world did y'all do? And so you hear that person in the background. The gentleman says, he looks to be about 25 or 30. And then the person, once again, in the background says, nah, 25. So that let me know that Quentin Bullock guy, he was a Black gentleman. You know what I'm saying? And, of course, I've done some research. I made a video comparing one Quentin Bullock who we found, or somebody sent pictures to me. I made a video comparing him to one of the pictures of the 3 men. However, people from the town, and actually this Quentin Bullock called me himself. Now, he wasn't too happy about it, but, we had discussion. I hope my brother forgives me. But I got word that, no, the Quentin Bullock who found him is a different Quentin Bullock. Okay. But nevertheless, that Quentin Bullock has not, he hasn't, said anything about it. But what was strange about the 911 call, a lot of things were, the man mentioned that he was a first responder, and he was adamant about, well, nah, I ain't touched him. Nah, I ain't touched him. I ain't touched him. Like, he said that about 2 or 3 times as to say, okay, well, make sure that you hear I haven't touched them. And it's sort of like a little kid when you ask them, hey, was you in the room?
Right,
It's sort of like that. That's what I got from it, where somebody is trying too hard to say that they didn't touch him. But nevertheless, there was people dispatched to the scene, and that just the overall demeanor of the person who called kind of once again raised red flags to a lot of people who've heard the call.
Yeah, I agree with that. Help me out with something. So JAVION, this caller said that he was hanging.
Yeah.
But then he was found, he was at the base of the tree. How did he get to the base of the tree? Did somebody cut the rope, or the first responder? Or
actually, once again, like when the pictures that the family was showed, he was sitting there, So one ex-law enforcement officer, and mind you, like I said, you're talking to a lot of people, and sometimes you don't know who to believe. But this one law enforcement officer, he said, he couldn't have did that because the rope wasn't, that kind of rope or this, that, the other. But he mentioned the branch breaking. He said whoever tried to put him up there didn't consider his body weight. So this person said that there was a broken branch involved. Now, if this person who called, maybe he saw him sitting there with the rope over the tree and interpreted as, him hanging from a tree, or he was, and then they took him down, or, we have no way of knowing. And that's what I tell a lot of people. Once again, as I mentioned before, a lot of this information that we are getting, or we have got, we don't know what's true and what's not, because they are not being transparent with the lot cameras. Of course, that lot that they had cameras. They're not being transparent with, there's another facility right across. They're not being transparent with those cameras. The Shell gas station has cameras, which was right there, not being transparent with that. There was a police officer from a neighboring town who stays right across the street. Sure, he has a Ring camera. Well, he had a Ring camera, so of course they can get the footage from that. And so all of these things lead to, okay, well, why are they not showing these things? Because they want to hurry up and go with the narrative of, self-unalivement.
So that it could just go away and everybody could forget about it. On to the next. That's what I think. And this what you just explained to me with all the cameras, it reminds me of a lot of things. One of the cases is Kendrick Johnson, the brother that supposedly rolled himself up in a gym mat at school, and they had all this footage, but when they got the footage was edited and nothing was usable to find out what really happened. And it's crazy, and it's unfortunate that in this day and age, our people are still going through this, and we don't know what time it is, as far as, like the possibilities of these things happening to us. And I'm not blaming any of our brothers and sisters that have fell victim to these type of things. But, in 2024 going into 25, we gotta, liven up and, and recognize that there's some true evil out there. There's some true devils out there. There's some true people that don't like you for whatever reason it may be. And our people gotta understand that. Now, when it comes to this story, what I've seen since then with you is a lot of other stories have come to light. So can you tell me a little bit about that? Like, because I've seen a lot of other stories coming to light that are similar to the JAVION MAGEE case.
Yeah, so as we begin, releasing the videos, releasing some of the information that was being found in the early stages, there was like an outpouring of interest from, I mean, all around the nation. Like I put my phone number out there, I would get calls from, I'm pretty sure every state in America, probably by now, I've gotten a call about them. People would watch the videos, people would point out things, people would point out these things. You know, there were other podcasters who would, you know, take the information and share it on their platform and, you know, get other information. They'll do their own research. So it began to be sort of like a community effort to point out that this did not happen to JAVION. Now, most recently, like I said, I was doing a live every night, and people would get on and we would be talking and having the conversation. And then people started saying, okay, well, what about this brother? Well, have you heard about this brother? Have you heard about this brother? And a lot of the brothers I had, you know, I would Google right there on the live, and I'm like, wow, this sounds similar to this. Wow, this sounds similar, like cases I've never heard of. And, you know, and these are cases, I shared 3 cases. These are cases that happened a week, less than a week before JAVION, a week after, you know, a month before. And these are 3 cases that nobody's heard nothing about. And I did videos on that, and people are still saying, wow, we didn't know that. Then I started to get calls from those particular areas, shedding light on how these things happen. And the fact that they're once again going with the mental health narrative, they're going with the self-unalivement, and they're closing the cases quickly. One case, Mr. Denoris Richardson in Alabama, and I had actually knew about a couple of these cases before I did the story, but I just wanted to keep the pressure on JAVION MAGEE, because each night there was something else that we were finding out, like the mysterious homeless man that we didn't get into, but we might revisit that.
Yeah, we can get that.
The case of Mr. Richardson, he had filed a lawsuit in Sheffield, Alabama, for police brutality in February. And then in September, I think it was the 25th, he goes missing, and he's found in the outskirts of Colbert County, suspended in the air on an abandoned carport in one of the towns where Black people know that they don't go, right? And so they immediately ruled it as self-unalivement. And the next day, the very next day, they bulldozed the house that he was found upon.
Oh, man.
And if that don't strike you as cover up, that like, hey, we did it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what to do. And then, you know, the other case about the young brother of Jacoby Lindsay down in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Same thing. They found him in the morning while the kids were going to school, balled up in a fetal position, once again suspended from air. And they immediately said no foul play. Like, all of them say quickly, no foul play.
Foul play.
Anybody knows with a asphyxiation, when you're hanging from someone, you're not going to be balled up in a fetal position. You're going to be, you know, you're going to be dangling. You know, that lets, once again, investigators say, well, no, that means rigor mortis had already set in, and then they strung them up there. That's the only way that you can be, you know, unalive like that. Because if you unalive yourself, you're going to be, once again, you're going to be flailing. So, and then it's the last one that I think I talked about this morning, the young brother Evan Bryant. Now, he's from Illinois. He's from Chicago, Illinois, too. He went to Vidor, Texas. Now, Vidor, Texas has been, like, literally, I pulled up articles where they're trying to dispel the myth that there are Sundown. They're trying to recover from that fact that they're downtown. But this brother supposedly drove to Vidor. He was a truck driver. Evidently, he dropped his load, and then he decided to walk behind a truck stop into the woods and suspend himself from a tree. And so, once again, quick investigation. The family's in Illinois, and they said no foul play, and then they go straight into the mental health narrative.
Now, before we go in a little more on sundown towns, let's get the homeless guy that was given that JAVION supposedly gave money to.
Yeah, so this homeless guy is Patrick West, and they did an interview surface with him, and in the interview, you can tell that he was highly intoxicated. He was, out of it. He didn't have a clue what was going on. He contradicted what he said in the reports or what the news reported that he said. He didn't say the same thing there. They said that he told JAVION told him, "Hey man, this is all I got. If I had more, I'd give it to you." The reporter asked him, "Was there any conversation?" He said, no, he just gave me some money. Oh, no, that's right. Yeah, he did say, this all I got. It was sort of like, and you can actually hear somebody in the background actually coaching him. He asked him one question. He was like, "What do you mean?" And the guy said, "What does it mean for somebody to give you the like?" I know a police voice when I hear a police voice. So
right.
And so then we had to look into this guy. Now this guy, we pulled up his criminal record, and this guy had over 30 charges in Vance County. Every time he went to court, it was dismissed by the DA. The most recent one was a common law robbery, dismissed by the DA. The only time that he served some time was for some charges that he had in the neighboring county of Wake County. And I think they gave him 90 days for a few charges. And he was recently released in June or July, only 2 months before, he's quote unquote met JAVION. He was supposed to be a homeless guy out there, but he still has pending charges. So it's obvious to me, because I spent a lot of time, dealing with the law in the streets. The police use people like him, as informants, as snitches, or as flunkies. So evidently, looking at his criminal record and the fact that he has never been convicted of anything, he either has some rich people in the town. Somebody told me that he wasn't homeless. He just chose to be out there, which means he probably some rich, kid who just out and everybody knows him. His family probably got money, so he never goes to jail. But he also can, go get Patrick to come say he did this and that. So I had somebody who saw him the other day, and they called me, but I was on another call, so I didn't get a chance to interview him. But hopefully we'll be able to interview him in the future and kind of catch him up in his story.
Yeah, and it's easy to use people like that, and I'm gonna add that he probably also grew up with some of those people on the police force. That's probably a possibility too.
Yeah, he's 30, so he's definitely of that age. And so, and it's once again, it's a small, it's a close-knit community. One of the officers who was found to have been stealing guns, his name was William Randolph Kieran, right? And we looked at him up, and William Randolph Kieran was the police officer who stayed at the house across the street from where JAVION was found. However, when I said that in a video, the one whose wife stays there, she called me and she said, "Look, the William Randolph Kieran you're talking about doesn't stay there. I am married to William Greg Kieran or whatever. It was a different name, but she said that there were no relations. But if you look through the county, like the DA is named Kieran or something like. So that's one of those popular names. The Kierans, the Finches, who was one of those officers that was found to target and harass Black people. So all of those towns, that name, somebody told me Kieran is a popular name. So West is too. Patrick West is too. So that close-knit community of, let's just say, good old boys, who run the town, no matter how Black the lay population is, those guys who own the businesses, own the truck yards, own the businesses, those are the guys who really move and shake and pull strings and have the power to make things like this go away.
Cover it up. Now, there was a video where you got the sister on camera. She was putting balloons at the base of a tree, and you interviewed her. You asked her a few questions, and one of the questions was about the racism, and about, even though Henderson is, correct me if I'm wrong, it's 80% Black, that don't mean nothing. That just because, well, we kind of covered it earlier where we talked about the cognitive dissonance. Like, even though it's 80% Black, the movers and shakers, that small a minority of people that are doing things, what you just said, own the trucking lots, own this, own that, that doesn't matter. That doesn't mean anything as far as what could happen.
Yeah, and that's what, I want to, I told one brother, and God bless my brother if you watching, it's all love. When he called in the show, he was like, man, it ain't like that here, man. We get along, man. We get along. We talk and everything. So my brother, what I'm saying, he kept saying things like this don't happen. I said, yeah, they don't happen in places like that until they happen. Just because they haven't happened before doesn't negate the possibility of them happening. So my brother was like, man, I'll go to the bar. So he actually, we was texting, right? So he messed around and texted me, and he was standing in front of the bar with the little, he gave me a little selfie. I'm talking about, man, that selfie, look, he was sweating, shaking in his boots, right? He took the picture. So I was like, okay, well, yeah, that doesn't mean it. So then he messed around, and I guess he went in the bar, and he took a picture with one of the patrons at the bar. And somebody showed me the patron post. For those of you guys who said, we don't like Black people, here's my new friend I met, such and such and such. So it's things like that, because like I said, on the surface every day, yeah, they can get along. But when someone comes, or when people get in their feelings, or when somebody gets in an argument with somebody and they feel that you have overstepped your place, that's what some people said, about the Black people there. Well, yeah, but they know how to stay in their place. Now, I didn't say that. That's what somebody else said. Not saying that's true, but that's how it is a lot of times. Once you start getting, I had a lady call. She said she's been staying in Henderson, and they said the neighborhood that she moved in, they told her that, don't know Black people supposed to live here. And she said that she had been harassed. I actually played it on one of the shows.
I think I might have seen that.
Huh?
I think I might have seen that.
Yeah, so I played that on one of the shows. So just because it's not outright, just because you work with them, like I said, I spoke. The law officer I talked to, he was white. He was friendly. We got along, but that doesn't negate the fact that some people don't feel that way. And some of these people may be people in power. And so
I'm sorry.
No,
say something? No, you make a good point. And that point is that, when it comes to business, when it comes to the everyday life of, just living, whether it's going to work, going to school, what else? Just being in moving throughout this world, particularly here in America for Black people and others, you can be deceived by what you think it's all about. You don't know that these type of people still exist to this day. Now, you may have them that do good things for Black folks, or have Black friends and all of that. But at the end of the day, that doesn't negate that you could be somewhere where people feel that you have overstepped your boundaries, or people feel that you do not belong there. That is definitely a reality also. So I'm just adding on to what you said. Also, what the sister said, which, being me being a Hebrew Israelite, she said she went to the church and asked for help, and they said, we don't help your kind. I mean, of all places where you think you could get some help, they said, we don't help your kind.
Yeah, and it's funny because that sister has reached out to me. She was supposed to come on the show, but that's her experience, right? So somebody else might have a different experience with that church, right? So, but she mentioned another incident that she had, that she actually had to call the police, and she said that the police, when she informed them of the matter that she was going through, the police laughed in her face and failed to render her or to protect and serve her. And, you know, just told her to go on and, you know, I can't stop him from doing this, that, and the other. And then, you know, she said she made a complaint. The police chief from last time we talked didn't meet with her. And so it's things like that, you know, that lets me know, okay, well, you know, yeah, we can live together, you know, but when it comes to you making a complaint or me protecting you, like I would protect someone of mine, then nah, well, you got to handle that yourself, you know. So it's those things once again, and not saying everybody, because of course, you know, the mayor is a Black woman, Sheriff Brain is a Black man, and a lot of people have been getting on them because some people feel that they are scared of the powers that be. Now, actually, somebody once again that there's been, you know, reports that, you know, somebody put hands and feet on the sheriff, and that's why he's not talking anymore. Mind you, the first press conference they did was September the 18th. If you look up any more articles on major news work like WRAL or whatever, NCT, there are no more articles. He has not said nothing, and to my understanding, he said that he wouldn't be saying anything else about it. And I had a chance once again to call up there, and we had a conversation about it. And, you know, he stuttered and stuck to his guns. Like, nothing, you know, nobody, you know, there's no signs that he came in contact with anybody, you know, but people have told me that, you know, he has been under pressure, you know, from powers that be. Somebody said he was in the hospital. But, you know, since that press conference, nobody has seen him, which verifies the fact that the young lady told me, oh, yeah, Sheriff Brain, he hides from everything.
So when there's any type of controversy, he disappears.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it looks like here, you know. And like I said, I hope to have Mr. MAGEE on to tomorrow so he can tell all of his experiences with the investigation or the lack thereof.
That's JAVION's father.
Yes, Corey MAGEE, JAVION's father.
Excellent. Definitely, I'll tune in. Now, getting to sundown towns. Now, I know many people on your videos, they said Henderson wasn't a sundown town. I got a little list. I did a little bit of research, and maybe you know, you can help me out with this. There's a few. I got 3 cities. One of them, I just found out some stuff that I know, like at least in the history, it was one. So Black Mountain, sundown town.
Now it's funny, right? So, mind you, I went to a recovery program in Piscataway. Now that is about, you know, 20 or 30 minutes from Black Mountain. It's on the border of Tennessee, out in western North Carolina, where there is a lot of history of racism counties out there, right? And so we would fundraise every Friday and Saturday, and we would go to these towns. Black Mountain was one of them. Now we would stand out in front of Walmart from 8 to 9 p.m. From those 13 hours, for 2 days, I would not see not one Black person. Not one Black person. I think I saw one, and when we saw each other, it was like we was cousins. Like she came way to my table down the street, right? So, I'm going to say it could be considered that because they don't see Black people, you know. So once they see you, it's like, what are you doing around here? You know what I mean? You're automatically a suspect. You know, so Black Mountain is one out. I got to tell you this one story because
okay, go ahead. Let me hear it.
I was in Piscataway. Piscataway, once again, is in Hendersonville and Brevard County. Once again, the next county over is like Tennessee, right? Or Cherokee, then you get to Tennessee. So I go back to visit like every 4 or 5 months because I want to, you know, kind of realize or memorialize myself, right? You know, so I would go. And so one day I was like, I'm going to drive up this mountain. You know, I'm going to drive up this mountain. Like, I would always see the mountains, and I looked up tourist spots, and it said the Devil's Courthouse.
Whoa.
So me and my friend, we driving up this mountain. You know what I mean? It's rickety, like it's a real mountain, and you can look down and don't look down because you know what I'm saying, you scared.
Yeah.
Like that high up, you going around turns, you going around curves. So we get to this flat land. We get to the flat land. Okay. Well, now I feel a little bit better. We driving, and we get to a gas station. At the gas station, it's like 20 bikers sitting off of their bikes, and we pass them, and I look at them, and they look at me, and their eyes got big. And I'm like, oh shoot, we done went too far, right? So I drive, but I didn't want to just immediately turn around because you know what I mean. That was like, okay, y'all done shoot me up. I drove a little bit faster. I came to a church. I boom, busted you. I get back by them. You know what they doing? Hopping on their bikes. They hopping on their bikes. I'm like, oh Lord. So we start traveling back down the mountain. Rickety, right? But in my ignorance, because there was this beautiful waterfall with springs and everything. So I saw a couple of cars pulled over. I said, I want to take a picture by that, right? So I get out the car. I go down, my friend, we go down, we take a couple of pictures, but then when we coming up, so we walking and they didn't stop, but they looking. And so they drive on past, right? I'm like, man, let me just, I started praying. Just let me get off this mountain, right? So we drive down, mind you, they all in front of us. So we drive down, we come to a little curve. It's like 7 of them off their bikes on the side of the road. They're looking like they're playing in the trees or something. But of course they were waiting for us. So we passed them, heart thumping. So then we go a little bit further. Another group of them standing in the middle of a curve. We got to go around them, right? And so then we finally get to the bottom of the hill. We meet the last group. And so we got out of there, right? And so probably like a couple of months later, I was in I was facilitating a mental health class. I spoke to a white guy who was from that area. And I told him about my experience. You know what he said?
What?
He said, you were lucky to come out of that mountain alive. He said what they were doing when they were making sure that you didn't, that you were leaving. You know what I mean? They were making sure that if you would have stayed up there, nobody would have ever found you. Because like they had like side, the mountains, they got side streets and everything like that.
Yeah.
That's my story. But once again, that's an element of a sundown town. But that was during the day. Now, mind you, at night, I would have never did that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to ramble, but
you good, bro. That's a good story, and that I love to hear that. That's some insight for somebody like me and people that are Southwest, the West Coast, because we don't really experience that, but racism does exist. And I was going to add that had that been nighttime, somebody that don't know where they're at, you probably would have never seen them again. I never even heard, like in this case, a story about what happened to them. Yeah. Now I got another one. This town is called Faith.
Faith, North Carolina?
Yes.
Never heard of it.
Okay. Well, I'm going off of, this is a little list, small list. I got 3 cities that I got off of Sundown towns on the internet and reading the forums with people saying places you should not go. This next one is Asheville. Now this place actually done got, from my understanding, then got wiped off the map. Am I correct with Hurricane Helene?
Yeah. So Asheville was about 20 minutes from Pisgah Forest. Now I spent a lot of time in Asheville when I was in the recovery program.
Okay.
And we would go to Asheville. Once again, it's predominantly white, but you would see some brothers and sisters out there. And and when I would go back, that's where I would stay in Asheville. But then I would go back to the ministry in Pisgah Forest. But yeah, like when like it's the whole mountain area for real. They talk about Burke County, Buncombe County, all of those Western North Carolinas, and so mind you, I was in a recovery program, and a lot of the people like sometimes I was the only black person in the program. So guys would be coming from Tennessee, the Western North Carolina, and they would call themselves rednecks. I'm a hillbilly, and they would talk. We would have conversations because we was all trying to get sober, and so they would say jokes because they would like. I'm not giving them a pass, but what I'm saying is they don't see black people, so they don't, so we're automatically a threat, or people like what they say. People fear what they don't understand. They hate what they can't conquer. You know what I'm saying? So that's they fear us because we're automatically a threat. And a lot of times, the only perception, the only knowledge they have of us is what they see in the media.
On the media, correct.
You know what I mean? But yeah, so a lot of those, but like they wasn't saying, yeah, I'm a hillbilly. All right, they would say the little, the little hillbilly jokes or whatever. But I was like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, and like I always tell people, I don't have no problem with you being that way. Long as you don't touch me. Long as you let me live my life. I'll sit down and let you hate and let you wave your flags and let you, say all types of stuff. All right, but long as you're not disturbing my life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, you can wave your flag, you can do your dance, you can wear your sheets all you want to, but keep it over there. That's my perception with it.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna add to that. So I agree with what you're saying. Like, if you're a person that loves your people, if whatever color you are, you love and you prefer your people, or you represent whatever power, right? That's cool. That's fine. That's perfectly fine with me, because I love black people. I love my people. And I hope it ain't a problem with you, just simply because I love my people, right? Because that's how the Most High made us to be in the first place. It's to love your people. You know what I mean? So I have absolutely no problem with any race preferring their people, saying their people is the greatest, having pride in their people. Go ahead and do your thing. Just don't, try to stop anything going on over here. So I agree with what you just said. So when it comes to these sundown towns, like, and let's just be real, a sundown town could be anywhere in America at any given moment. Let's just keep that real. Like what we understand in the South, you have those pockets in those places where it's more intense. But I don't care if you're in New York, if you're in Seattle, if you're in Los Angeles, any time can turn into a sundown town. Any place can turn into that. So this is the thing. Many people would say that these places and these pockets don't exist. And it's almost like they're like, oh, it's a conspiracy. Those things, that was in the past. Places have changed. People have passed away and new people live there. But we still have evidence of this happening still, but it's always a cover up. I just wanted to bring out the fact, like what you spoke about certain people owning certain things, and it's easy to cover something up in these small towns. The judge is cousin with the district attorney friend owns this lot. It's easy when you are running everything in a particular area. And so people believe that's even a conspiracy, but I believe that came out in Ferguson, Missouri, after the Mike Brown incident, where they found that they was doing that in Ferguson, right? Where everybody was related and they came together to lock black people up and make money. So these places do exist where everybody is related. If you could speak to that, brother.
Yeah, you remember the Ahmaud Arbery case?
Mm-hmm.
You remember the Ahmaud Arbery case in Georgia? That case happened in like February, but it was only because one of the DAs got mad at another one that he released the tape. And that's how the world found out about it. Like they had already, said, okay, well, nah, we're not gonna, arrest them, the two officers. We're gonna close this case or whatever. But because that tape was released and they received outside pressure, then they had to arrest the father and son that hunted him.
Mm-hmm.
That hunted him. But that was a small town, legal, judicial, law enforcement circle that was able to keep that on the wraps, and would have been kept on the wraps if they wouldn't have begin infighting with each other. And so that's another example of that. And once again, I stay in Goldsboro, North Carolina, Wayne County, and I'm sitting here trying to get some people arrested for killing one of our young black brothers from a neighboring town, and the DA saying that they're not going to prosecute because of this, that, and the other. So I receive there are certain people who get in trouble in this little town because their father is a prominent businessman. One gentleman I did a story on, he was driving drunk. He literally almost killed 2 people, seriously injured them bad. He got arrested, stayed in there for 13 minutes. They called his father with the same name, and he got a $200,000 unsecured bond. Meaning, unsecured means you don't have to pay anything. Secured means you got to pay 10%. So, and that guy's probably going to go home with a slap on the wrist. But these people are still suffering from their injuries and things of that nature. And it's so much that goes on right here that I've experienced that I can do a whole show about that, on a whole nother day. But I'm not speaking, and see that's the problem, because some people don't experience this, or some people haven't had battles with the judicial system, so they could say, what, the DA, not DA Wilkins, he's an upstanding member of his church, he gives to charity, but you don't know he also has been running powdery substances through his nephews in the backyard, and nobody's ever caught him. You know what I'm saying? But I know because I'm living that life. You understand?
Right.
So I've been in positions where I've, transacted with judges, DAs, lawyers, those people, police officers who are upstanding citizens by day, but at night, they're calling me to get their preferred vice. So if people haven't had those experiences, they were, never policemen. What? A police lie?
Yeah.
A judge do something underhanded? A judge convicts you because he doesn't like you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that happens. So, that's where people that's where people get it messed up, because they haven't had those experiences. They haven't seen it. So as one saying goes, ignorance is bliss.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Definitely. That's well said, brother. So there's one more thing I want to talk. Oh, yeah. So what I pay attention to, what I've been paying attention to since I had started my platform years ago, was the enormous amount of Black women missing. Now I'm starting to see a lot more. It's Black women, it's Black children, black young men, just an enormous amount of Black people coming up missing without a trace. A lot of times people are found, but I always felt, and I don't want to, be a conspiracy theorist, but I always felt like there was like some operation going on, because it just seems like it's just too many people without a trace to be found. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, they say anytime that the people, or the government, or the people in power want to do something, they'll put it in a movie first. So you had the movie Get Out, right? Get Out was about the young Black man who was dating a white girl, and he went to their house, and they were auctioning him off,
right,
to get his organs to keep their relatives alive. Then you had the movie They Cloned Tyrone, which was sort of the same type of deal. So there's been, evidence. I used to listen to the late great Baba Dick Gregory, and he used to talk about a lot of those things too, organ harvesting, the X trafficking, the S word trafficking, all of those things, are being, I guess, perpetrated. Like I said, now that's something that I haven't really investigated. So, I can't say for sure. I haven't found a bunch of people in a white van,
right,
behind the Dollar General, being like taken out in chains.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that, or I haven't, walked in to a doctor's office and seen, them operating or them suctioning out the heart and lungs of somebody. So, but, enough people are saying that. And, with so many people being missing, and with that narrative or that portrayal out there that these things are happening, then that's something that you have to consider.
Right. I would say that, many people would say like, is nothing happening? Like, unless, and you do have to have concrete evidence of something like that. But I believe this was years ago when they said 100,000 Black women are missing without a trace. And that was just probably over 10 years ago. Like, like I said earlier, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but at one point in time, it was a conspiracy theory that the United States government put drugs in the Black community. And then the story came out that it was actually real. So like you said, like we got to just, you just keep your eyes open for things like that. And it affects us as Black people. You don't never want to see somebody making a post saying, hey, have you seen my daughter? Have you seen my mom? Have you seen my son? But I'm starting to see it more and more and more. And also this topic of JAVION MAGEE, what can people learn? Like, how do we get the word out? Well, I guess we get the word out about what we're doing right now, but people like you, how can we get the word out more and more for Black people to understand that these type of things are still happening in this modern age?
Well, once again, we have to, first of all, do the research, because without the individuals, and shout out to everyone who, watches my platform, I appreciate you. Without those individuals, getting that information to me, I wouldn't know. Keeping the information to the forefront, share them on Facebook, social media, Facebook, TikTok, and things like that, because it gets draining, all the time looking at that stuff and tag on and another one and another one and another one and another one. However, if we are not aware of these things happening, then we wouldn't take the proactive measures to avoid the situations or to protect ourselves by various means, whether that's by, arms or by avoiding those situations or using wisdom to, travel in groups, whatever the case is. But we have to continue, to get these things out. That's why, I spent, probably like 3 or 4 weeks straight just JAVION. And, now because of the other information, I'm like, well, no, people need to hear about these too. Because people don't, it's not an isolated incident. And it highlights it more because this happened this way, and it's the same narrative. Quick investigation, no foul play, self-unalignment. Quick investigation, no foul play, self-unalignment. Quick investigation, no foul play, self-unalignment. So if we continue to allow those things to occur, then there's going to be more and more cases. So what I'm advising everybody to do, in JAVION's case, is actually reach out to the FBI. Now, of course, a lot of people are saying, well, of course, the FBI, they're infiltrated with those groups too. But however, somebody gave me the name of a lady. Her name is Kristen Clark, and she works in the Civil Rights Division of the FBI, and she's been handling cases as such. So if you are interested in, bringing light to any situation, go to the FBI online. They'll give you some tabs. You can either do, I did both. I did civil rights and corruption. It's like 5 tabs you can do, and you leave your tip about whatever particular situation. If you're concerned about JAVION, please do that, or leave several tips about all of these situations that you are hearing. So that is my method now, because I think that, just from our conversation, I think we have, and probably didn't hit on everything with that, you know, the inconsistencies of that case. But I think with that conversation, people can see that there probably is something that needs to be investigated with that. So now I'm turning my focus to how to get this thing investigated. You know, how to get the outside entities to come in and look at that. So
that's excellent. Excellent. Now, I should have asked this question earlier, but I just want to know, in this particular case, or maybe it was other cases, what sparked your interest in the JAVION MAGEE case, or have you always had this interest in this curiosity, this journalist investigative approach to things?
Yeah, so you know, when I was younger, I used to always read books. Like I'm like yourself, I'm a historian. One of the first books that changed my life was the autobiography of Malcolm X. And he spoke about his childhood, which, you know, consisted of Klansmen coming to his house, unaliving his father, him being shuffled around, his mother being mistreated by, you know, whites, even him in his adult years, you know, having to, you know, experience racism. But also, once again, I speak with my father. My father's Pastor Prophet Roger Taylor. He's 71 now. And so I always, you know, when that sparked my curiosity, I used to ask him about what was he growing up like in the 60s. You know, he was, you know, a teenager in the 60s. And he used to mention places where in this little town that they couldn't cross part of certain town. You know, so that always burnt the fire in me, you know, because, you know, once again, I was always someone who read, who wanted knowledge, who wanted to figure out why things were the way they were. And so when I started getting older, and one of the, you know, and I started, you know, began reading books like Exhuming of a Nation, and They Came Before Columbus, and, you know, The Miseducation of the Negro. All of those things started to awaken me of the position that we have been in, and in some ways are still in, but we don't see them because it's masked. Like you may have, you know, a black police chief, you know what I mean? But the whole law enforcement system is systematically racist. You know, he's going to send his officers in the black neighborhoods, you know, where black people and white people, you know, use substances at the same rate. But if you stop 10 black people and 5 of them, I mean, say five black people have substances and 5 white people have substances. But if you stop 8 black people, you're guaranteed to get at least 3 with the substances. But if you only stop 2 white people, you only have an 80% or 20% chance of, you know, finding somebody with something. So those are the things that just started to perplex me. But, you know, with the unalivements, of course, the Trayvon in 2012, the Mike Brown, you know, and you started seeing these things. So then you started looking into everything. And so with this particular case, like I said, it just sparked my interest. And then as I began to learn more about JAVION, because I work in the community with troubled youth, you know, youth who are, you know, in gangs. I try to dissuade them from that, or, you know, I try to implement or bond with people or network with people who try to put plans for that. But with him, he was a young, prosperous man who had somehow avoided that lifestyle coming from, you know, the city or the outskirts of Chicago. So this was like, nah, this is, you know, this don't supposed to happen to him. You know, this supposed to, you know, or don't supposed to happen to anybody, first of all. But, you know, that was one thing that, you know, and just seeing, you know, just seeing the way they were framing it. But, you know, I've just been, you know, an advocate. Like growing up, most people had Jordan on their walls. They had rappers on their walls. I had 3 pictures my whole childhood. That was Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, and Jesse Jackson. Before, you know, he kind of fell off. But you know what I'm saying. But yeah, so those, I've always, you know, had passion to, you know, kind of speak up, defend, champion, you know, our race in that regard.
Excellent, excellent. Well said. I was going to go back on what you said about the policing. That my outlook on policing is this. Policing started from the paddy rollers. It started from slave catching, and it was always a culture in it. And that same culture was to protect, rich people stuff and brutalize minorities or black people. And so to me, when you have a culture like that, it doesn't matter what race you are. That's why we have black officers that abuse their authority against black people, because when you put on that uniform, it's like you take on that culture. It's either you take on the culture or you be silent, or you just get pushed up out of there. But because you always would wonder, why is it that it seems like our people go harder on us than the other officers? It's because it doesn't really matter what race it is. When you put on that uniform, you take on the culture of that particular department.
Yeah, and for them, for black officers, they have to be harder because they don't want their other counterparts to feel that they are being lenient or like they are being favorable, but they won't extend the same harshness to their counterparts people or their counterparts because they know they won't stand for it. But once again, the late great Dick Gregory said, why come you don't see black officers shooting white children? Right? He said, is it because they're more moral? They're more upstanding? He said, no. He said, the reason you don't see that because they know white folks won't tolerate it. That they won't tolerate it, but we tolerate it. But going back to what you said about the culture, the history of the police, my last book that I wrote, Blue Lights in My Rearview, it focuses on that, the history of police in America. And it started, like you said, I started the book, just like you said, with the slave catchers. The slave catchers, the police morphed into police from the slave catchers because blacks were property. They defended property. They didn't defend people. So then, as some lady, so eloquently put it today, they traded in their sheets for badges, for gavels, for law books, for medicine books. So but yeah, it's the culture. The history of police has always been to target, the black race, and that goes back to what Nixon said in the 60s. A Nixon representative says, "Look, we knew that substances weren't the biggest problem in America. We knew that, and we knew that blacks didn't use substances more than other people. But by associating blacks with substances and criminality, then we can justify going into their communities and locking them up." But in the last part, I said, we knew about the substances, but that was deployed. So we have to be careful when we create that narrative. Just like you said, the CIA, 10 or 15 years later, once again, was instrumental into flooding these neighborhoods, make the money, lock them up, free labor, and we get the money back so we can, enrich ourselves. And not to mention the private prison. So now, it's an extra incentive for people to make money off of the cheap labor.
Man, you said a lot, and let me just add on to what you said, and I'm paraphrasing. I believe the publicist or the assistant also said that the war on drugs really wasn't a war on drugs; it was a war on black people.
You read the same book. You read the same stuff. Okay. I'm with you. Right.
So let me just give you a little bit of how I got here. So now I'm from the West Coast. So of course I grew up in a black and brown community, and at school, my classroom will probably have about 2, maybe 3 Caucasian people in the class. So I didn't know anything about racism. I didn't know nothing about racism, but I had 2 excellent black teachers. One was my 4th grade teacher. Another was my 5th grade teacher. My 4th grade teacher was a black man named Mr. Pierre, right? He brought to school for us to watch Eyes on the Prize. Now, Eyes on the Prize is a documentary on the whole civil rights movement. It's like really real and really raw. So it starts with Rosa Parks. It goes into MLK. It goes into Emmett Till, the whole case of Emmett Till, even the graphic picture of Emmett Till. Well, my teacher showed us that. We've seen it all, right? And after that, I looked at my classmates like I really actually knew what racism and prejudice was. That was my education on racism and prejudice. The following year, I had a teacher named Miss Butler. She took me and about 3 other students that performed well in class to a movie night. You know, she went and took us to go see Malcolm X.
Oh, okay, Malcolm X. Okay,
So the foundation of my blackness, of my historical heritage in reality was set. You know what I mean? And so I thank those teachers, but that's where, you know, I always had a knack and I always had a care for what was it like back in history with my people. What did my people go through, you know? And so that's what got me to this point. That's why I'm even here. That's what got me here. So
yeah. So let me add on to, because I forgot a couple of my teachers. Dorothy Hardy, 6th grade. She pulled me to the side. You are a black man, you know, because okay, so I went to an integrated school.
Okay.
Right? In the 90s, right? In the 90s, I went to an integrated school, segregated. I went to a segregated school in the 90s. I'm sorry. Meaning they separate us by we had something called academically gifted, right? I don't know if y'all had that, you know, academically gifted.
Yeah.
So, but in my school, it was like maybe me and like 2 other black people that were classified as that, you know, early on. So it would be me and like, you know, 25 white students in class. So all through my years, like, I used to hate it because I couldn't be in the class with, you know, my peers because I was quote unquote smart. So I had to go in with the nerds and stuff, right? But it was then that I started seeing how I was treated different. You know, I could raise my hand, you know, teacher look right over me. You know what I'm saying? I keep my hand up, and then I start blurting out the answers. I'll get in trouble. You know, somebody else blurt out the answers. You know, and I started seeing that, so that caused me to sort of start acting out. And that's when the teacher pulled me aside, like, they know who you are. That's right. You know, so that's, you know, I started getting those lessons, you know, early, but they didn't kind of manifest until I started, you know, kind of reading outside of the school. And so I just had to add that because you mentioned the teacher. Shout out to Miss Hardy and Cox. You know, they were strong black women who knew the history, you know, and knew what I would be facing early on because of, you know, I guess, you know, my academic talents or, you know, whatever the case may be.
And so, like we talked briefly before we got on live, and, you know, I open up and let you know, I'm a Hebrew Israelite. I'm in the ISUPK. I believe black people are God's chosen people. We're the real Jews. And we got into, you know, just the things that we can agree on. And you said something, I can't remember how you said it, but it's something that I live by when dealing with my people, networking with my people and meeting my people, is that we don't have to agree on what we believe in or ideology, but there are things that we can agree on. And what happened with JAVION MAGEE, we can all agree that it was some crap, some BS. So there are issues that we all can agree on and come together and just put away everything else and just focus on that.
Yeah, and that's you know, that's what I try to do. I don't talk politics. I don't talk religion, and I see why, because, you know, if I'm not an emotional person, so I can basically have a conversation with you and differ from you, but a lot of people can't do that, you know, and then it's like, okay, we enemies, but I thought we were just working on this after school program, you know what I mean? Like, we got off track, but this is what we want. We both want the same thing. We just, have different ideologies about how to get there. And so those ideologies that they have to be out the window. Okay, let's see how we can put our common goal together. So that's what I want, a lot of people who are interested in making change to focus on our commonalities rather than, our differences. And once we do that, we're unstoppable, because
Unstoppable.
I hate to say it like this, because a lot of people, who have those traditions ingrained in you, we're Black before anything else. We're Black before our political beliefs. We're Black before our occupations. We're Black, even in some regards towards our religion. If you look at it like that, you know what I'm saying. If you don't, if you don't look at yourself as a nation, So, but that's I love our people, man. I love our people because we're just so diverse. We're so powerful. We're so powerful in, our minds, our bodies, our spirits, our emotions, that, sometimes those little minuscule differences can usurp the power from us and allow us to be done like this without any retribution.
Well, that's well said. That's well said. And I agree with you, man. I love my people. We are a resilient, powerful people. We done been through so much, man. And, when you learn the history of your people, you have to not be in your right mind, not to have compassion on the things that our ancestors have went through and still go through, in the things that you see in the world and the way that things are happening today. And when you see stories like JAVION, MAGEE, it hurts you, and it also infuriates you, and it also makes you more determined, to make sure everybody knows what time it is. And like, we can't let this happen anymore. We need to know what's going on in the world. We need to know that this type of evil still exists. These type of devilish acts are still happening to our people, And what I want to also say is, all superheroes don't wear capes. They do exactly what you're doing, brother. And I salute you for what you're doing. Had it not been for you, I would have not known anything. I'll be sitting in the dark, like I know a lot of people are, looking for the next news outlet to bring an update on what happened to this young brother, JAVION MAGEE. So, Richard, I salute you. I appreciate you for rocking with me. You know what I mean? I hope we can do something again. I know
anytime, my brother.
Be a lot busier,
Nah, anytime, my brother, man. I'm honored, like I said, to be on, your platform, to connect with you, to just, bond and fellowship with you. You know what I'm saying? As my brother who's, definitely on the right path. We definitely have some common ideology. We read the same books, so we had some of the same experiences, man. So this is what it's all about, man. We have to do this more. We have to, as brothers, we have to find that common ground, because they pit us against each other as well in a lot of different instances, and have us once again fighting each other when we should be fighting with each other. So I'm honored to go in the battle with you, my brother. And anytime that you need me, I'm here. You got my info.
That's word. Word is bond. Look, if you could, for the people, for my viewers, could you just say where they can find you, where they can find the books, things of that nature.
Okay, yeah. So you can find me, I guess, on YouTube at Taylor House Publishing, and also you can go to Amazon and you can look up Richard Taylor. I'll just give you the simple title: Wrongfully Accused, Rightfully Acquitted. That's one of my books you can get, or Blue Lights in My Rear View, and that'll take you to the links to my other books. And I'm transparent. 919-587-7782. You want to call me direct and ask me some questions or get with me. you can do the same. But I definitely thank you for giving me a platform, and as well, you share your information, with my audience so they can know who you are, how to get in touch with you, and what you got going on.
Okay, I'm Thawahgabar. My platform is Black Authentic Truth. I talk about historical events, past, present, and in the future. Okay, I'm also a Hebrew Israelite. I teach. You can find me on online on Hollywood Israelites, Wednesday nights, 7 p.m. Pacific time. That's
Okay.
it.
Give me. So you said the ISUPK.
Correct.
Right. So what does that stand for?
It stands for Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge.
Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. Now, what does that entail? Like, what does that school entail? What is, like, a basic, I guess, synopsis?
No sweat. So we teach Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians their true identity according to the Bible and according to history. That it's a fact that we are God's chosen people. We are, in fact, the real ethnic biblical Jews that came from West Africa. Okay, the school started in 1969. This truth and this understanding of the Bible came from slaves. It actually came from the South. Brothers did research in the 60s, found out who were the tribes, where would they be in the last days on this side of the earth, and the rest is history. I'm sure many people that follow you have seen Hebrew Israelites. I'm in the ISUPK. It is the home of the truth. It's where all of this truth started from. Of course, you have many brothers that, went their different ways and started their own camps or schools or whatever. But this is the home of the truth. This is where this knowledge of Jesus Christ is Black was first taught on the streets of Harlem, New York. This is where the knowledge that we are God's chosen people were first taught in the streets of America. So that's pretty much a basis of it. We have a prison program. We feed brothers and sisters in the streets, food and clothing program, free counseling, all of the good stuff that could build up our people and help our people get out of tough and rough situations. Most importantly, having an identity in knowing who they are.
Man, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. That's awesome. And I do have a lot of, Israelite brothers and sisters, who come in and chime in. So shout out to all my brothers and sisters, and
shout out to the brothers and sisters.
Yeah, I don't know, if they're particularly with your school, but they're definitely, about the knowledge. Let's say that.
Right. Shout out to everybody that's been rocking with us this evening. Shout out to everyone. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, we all a family. You know what I'm saying? And a common bond is oppression. One of the things that bond us together tonight is oppression, unfair treatment by a force or a government. And so, shout out to everybody that's rocking with us.
Definitely, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I thank you for allowing me up here again, my brother.
Oh yeah, man. So we got to do it again. I'll hit you on the back end.
Yes, sir. I'll be looking forward to whatever you need me. Like I said, I'm there.
All right, brother. Peace.
Right,
I'm gonna stay on. So I'm gonna stay on. So you gonna drop or?
Yeah.
But I got you.
All right. Appreciate you.
All right, brother.
All right.
Man, that's an amazing brother right there. Like I said, all heroes don't wear capes. And that shows you that's true love of your people. True love. You know what I'm saying? Like you gotta actually care, and you gotta have some compassion on your people to do what he's doing, to do what a lot of brothers is doing behind the scenes that we don't know. But that's what it's all about, y'all. That's what it's all about. Let me see. Yeah, so I think I got a story. You know what? I was going to end it, but I think I was going to talk about Kieran Henderson, the pastor that said, "Don't give to the poor." And I had another story about the color of Jesus. I was going to bring out some scriptures. Since it is Sunday, let me make sure. Let me get my notes together. I think I'll bring out this. this story. Let me get it together.
Just love Black Jesus because I am sure that he was Black.
I mean, the descriptions there, even though my motivation for the Book of Clarence wasn't to depict Jesus as any particular color, I do believe that whatever your race, whatever your hue.
And let me just say, this is James Samuel. This is the director of the Book of Clarence. Now, many people don't know what the Book of Clarence is because it didn't. I don't think it got good promotion, or for whatever reason. We probably know what the reason is. Most likely is that they didn't want to promote it. They didn't want it to be seen like that. But it depicts Black people in ancient Jerusalem like the correct way. And I'm saying the correct way. I actually like the Book of Clarence. A lot of people didn't like it because it deals with a lot of like satire, and it's not really serious at times. And but overall, the aesthetics and everything, I really like the Book of Clarence, and just the visuals of Black people in ancient Jerusalem. And so they're talking about the color of Christ, the color of Jesus. Okay.
You should be able to see Jesus at least once in your own reflection, right? Because really, what color was Jesus? Well, Jesus was the color of Jesus. But
he wasn't blonde hair and blue eyes.
But he wasn't.
That's
exactly.
what we know. He was not from Sweden.
Like, what color was Jesus? Jesus was the color of Jesus, but he was not from Sweden. He did not look like Max von Sydow. He did not look like
Bjorn Borg,
right? That was not I mean, skin the color of burnt brass and. But
you do an interesting conversation about.
So the thing is that many people say, well, it doesn't matter. Like he was kind of glossing over it, kind of saying, well, if you believe in Jesus, he's the color, whatever color you want him to be, in so many words. So many people feel like it doesn't matter. It absolutely doesn't matter. It's in your heart. Jesus is a spirit and all of that. I'm gonna get some scripture, and then I'm gonna show you some pictures, and then we'll get up out of here. So let me pull this up. I'm going to show you some ancient photographs of how people painted Christ, what Christ actually looked like. And then we'll get a few precepts. So the first one I want to grab is Revelation. People get scared when you say Revelation. We get Revelation. Let me pull this up. Share the screen. Let's share. I'm going to read. This is the book of Revelations, chapter 1, verse 13 through 15. And in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girt about the paps with a golden girdle. You get in class, I can explain all of that, what all of that means. 14. His head and his hairs were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were a flame of fire. So it says his head and his hairs were white like wool. It's giving you the color and the texture. It was white and it was woolly. Okay. Verse 15. And his feet like unto fine brass, as if they burnt in a furnace. All right. His feet like unto fine brass, as if they burnt in a furnace. This is John the Revelator on his knees in prison. He's had a vision, and in this vision, he's seen a man. And what he could see was he's on his knees. So what he can see is his feet. And he described his feet as like unto fine brass, as if they burnt in a furnace. So brass is a derivative of brown. I'm sure everybody can agree. You take a penny out of your pocket, that's kind of the color of brass. And it says as if they burnt in a furnace. Now put the penny in a furnace, put the brass bar in a furnace. What's going to happen to that brass bar? It's going to get very dark, meaning This is the image of Christ. This is the description. And I got more. Let me pull up something else. Now that's the description, that Christ was a dark-skinned man. He wasn't just a black man. He was a dark-skinned man. So let me pull one more up. Now this is Daniel, the book of Daniel, chapter 10, 5-6. Then I lifted up my eyes and looked, and behold, a certain man clothed in linen, whose loins were girded with fine gold of Uphaz. His body also was like the beryl, and his face as the appearance of lightning, and his eyes as lamps of fire, and his arms and his feet like in color to polished brass. You see, the people of the Bible had color. You don't learn this in the Christian church. You're not teaching this in the church. What they're teaching is that it doesn't matter. These things don't matter anymore. But it does matter because Christ had a nationality. He had an identity. He was from the tribe of Judah. He was from one tribe out of the 12 tribes. And he was like, if you believe he was a real man, you got to understand that he had an identity. He had a nationality. And the people in the Bible were called Hebrew Israelites. And they had color. I'll read it one more time. And his arms and his feet like in color to polish brass. Once again, brass is a derivative of brown. Now let me pull this one up. This is the last one I'm going to do as far as the precepts, and then I'm going to get a picture to go with this so you can understand. Right? This is the Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 5. I am black, but comely, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon. Now it's clear it's saying I am black and comely, but people say that that means something else. But what are as the tents of Kedar? Well, let's find out what the tents of Kedar are, or what they look like. Let me pull that up for you. We'll share this. These are the tents of Kedar. The tents of Kedar historically were always black tents made of fine material, goat's hair. These are what the tents of Kedar look like. You can look it up yourself. Look it up yourself on your Google machine on your phone. Check it out and get back to me. But we just got a straight breakdown of what the color of Christ was. And then it actually, if it didn't matter, it wouldn't even be inside the scriptures if it didn't matter. But it did matter. And maybe the Lord knew, I'm just saying, maybe the Lord knew that this would happen down the line. People would say it doesn't matter because black people, our whole life, I know my grandma had a white Jesus on the wall. I'm pretty sure there's some black people to this day that have a white Christ sitting somewhere on the wall to this day. And I'll get to that point too. Let me just close this out, and I'm gonna get to that point I just made because that's very important. Now, these are some images, ancient images of Christ. Now, what I was going to say is because some of our people still have a God that doesn't look like them, I want that to just marinate for a minute. Now, when you look in the world, everybody has a God that looks like them, except for black people in America. We have a God that was given to us. We have a religion that was given to us on a plantation. I'm not saying the Bible, I'm saying the religion that's based on the Bible. It was given to us, a way to look at it. And that religion is the reason why we feel like it doesn't matter what color God is or Christ was. And so you have real images right here of the color of Christ. Let me pull up the other one. Now, this image is out of the Roman catacombs. During the time that the Jews were in Rome, it came a time when they were persecuted, and the catacombs were graves that were underground, or sepulchers that were underground where they buried the dead. And the Jews lived underground for fear of persecution by the Romans. Well, this is what they found. This is from the 2nd century AD. This is the image of Christ that somebody painted. It doesn't look like the Christ that our grandmas had on the walls, does it? I know it doesn't. But the point that I was also making before I switched up was that if you have a God that doesn't look like you, when you look at your people, how can you see the God in them if the God that you are looking at doesn't even resemble you? The God that you're looking at resembles another people. So God is in them, but God is not in you. It's not in your people, because you don't see the God in your people. And then that just goes on to a lot of other things, of how we treat one another, or whether or not we even care for one another, or whether or not we have compassion on one another. So with that, I hope everybody enjoyed the live. I hope everybody got something out of it. I know I did. I had a good time. This is one of many. I'll be back next Sunday. Actually, I'll be in next weekend. I'll be in Kansas City, Missouri, and then 2 weeks after that, I'll be in Austin, Texas. So if any brothers and sisters are out there, you want to link up, you want to talk, you can hit me at Thawahgabar @gmail. All right. But with that, y'all, I'm about to get up out of here. Enjoy the rest of this evening. It's a beautiful, it's probably getting dark now. It was a beautiful day today in Southern California. But yeah, I'm gonna get up out of here. Peace to everybody that rocked with me today, and I'll be back. Peace, y'all.